on this summer night. On this freewheeling, free-feeling night, let the fireflies be your fireworks, and the cascading stars of Perseus, Andromeda, Cassiopeia be your dreamworks. Let your spirit float like a cork on the waters of the passing hours, your passing fancies, and all your thoughts come to rest, come to ease and gentle nest. On this lulling night, on this green-leafing summer evening. Welcome again to the latest floating poetry broadcast. And thank you for leaning in from somewhere in the world at twilight or on one side of it or another. I'm happy to have you along for show 171, coming to you live from the now starlit coast of Rhode Island, here in Westerly-by-the-Sea. This is your poet and poetorialist Colin Goedecke, a voice for living our days more fully, more alively, more poetically. Last week's show, if you listened in, was Here in the Forest, the heart and soul of forests. From their beauty to their remarkability, their deep presence, powerful essence, their vital role in the health of our planet, their place in our psyches, imaginations, and civilizations throughout time, and the enlivening, enriching, and sometimes enchanting effect they have on us when we're in them, communing with them, sensing through them. This week, night time, the nature, beauty, mystery, and wordless poetry of it, our varied relationships with it, individually to culturally, the contrast it gives us from the light of day, the opportunity it gives us to see other things in the dark, not least the moon and the stars, the warm glow from house windows, the eyes of nocturnal animals, and to take our nightly rest and dream time, and sometimes bodily loving time. Well, I formed a night tide of cultural commentary, quotes, anecdotes, and poetry for us to spend some quiet time here between dusk and dawn. So let's go further into the night together, and maybe it lasts a while longer. It will last a while longer because due to some hiccups we had a late start. But here we are. Let's begin with Campbell McGrath, Nights on Planet Earth. It starts with a quote, actually, and then I'll give you the opening. It's a quote by Susan Brind Morrow, of From Wolves and Honey. Heaven was originally precisely that, the starry sky dating back to the earliest Egyptian texts, which include magic spells that enable the soul to be sown in the body of the great mother Nut, literally night, like the seed of a plant, which is also a jewel and a star. The Greek Elysian fields derive from the same celestial topography, the Egyptian field of rushes, the eastern stars at dawn where the soul goes to be purified. That there is another mirror world, a world of light, and that this world is simply the sky. And a step further, the breath of the sky, the weather, the very air, is a formative belief of great antiquity that has continued to the present day, with the Godhead becoming brightness itself. Dios/Theos, Greek. Deus, divine. Diana, Latin. Divas, Sanskrit. Daha, Arabic. Day, English. And here's McGrath's opening. Part 1. Gravel paths on hillsides amid moon-drawn vineyards. Click of pearls upon a polished nightstand, soft as rainwater. Self-minded stars, oboe music distant as the grinding of icebergs against the hull of the self and the soul in the darkness, chanting to the ecstatic chants of existence. Deep is the water and long is the moonlight, inscribing addresses in quicksilver ink, building the staircase a lover forever pauses upon. Deep is the darkness and long is the night, solid the water and liquid the light. How strange that they arrive at all, nights on planet Earth. Thank you, Campbell McGrath. Lying awake late at night near Provincetown, September 2002. A far-off foghorn, lonely and comforting, calling and recalling, stirring the old souls of long-gone whales and whalers. Ce soir, tonight. Tonight a spoon of glace de lune in a coulis of blue curacao. Under the first full moon of the year, January 1st, 2018. Lunar Litscape. At precisely 9:25. When the moon, the first and most abundant one of the new year, was perfectly full. Thousands of readers, many with mittens, opened their novels and poetry collections, their unfinished mysteries, promising short stories, and began to read by the cleagishly bright lunar light. Some silently, nocturnally, in the outdoor reading rooms they shared with the stars and the owls. Some sotto voce, others to listening friends, even declaimingly up to the moon itself, which was, that night, all wide-eyed, open-eared. All right, before we go on, some questions for you about the night. What do you love about nighttime? Things you especially enjoy at night, in the night, look forward to. How differently do you live in the evening compared to the day? What are your rituals, evening rituals? How do you usually spend a large part of your evenings? Are you a night owl? I have been one at times. I have been one actually in the last few days, working away on the launch of the Poetisphere soon upon us. Do you enjoy twilight time and the hour before dawn, if you're a very early riser? How does darkness affect you? In a good way. Maybe inspire you. What was nighttime like for you as a child growing up? Were you ever afraid of the dark, or of monsters under your bed or in your closet? I know I was. I'd always check those places to make sure they weren't there. And how are you sleeping these days? I hope well. And what are you dreaming about in the wee hours, in the small hours? Do you feel more romantic at night? Are you more comfortable being naked in the night dark? Do you notice how your senses shift at night? Or your emotions? Or the way your surroundings take on a different character, visually and feelingly, when daylight recedes? Are you a stargazer? Are you a moonlighter? Or moonlight serenader? Are you by chance a sleepwalker? When was the last time you took a walk somewhere in the dark, somewhere outside? Where were you? What was the experience like? What about a night walk in nature, in a forest or woods, maybe along an ocean or a river, or in a desert or a canyon or a valley? What about a late night walk in a city or a town when it's quiet and empty? Your town or city or another one far away. Or taking a drive at night to no particular destination, just for the pleasure of coasting round, freewheeling under the stars. Or sitting around an open fire, maybe in a circle of friends. Do you listen in to the night? Tune your ear, maybe while you're lying in bed, to the sounds, whatever they are, from tree frogs to distant train whistles, or the wind in the trees, or a slow, steady rain falling outside your windows. What another world the night offers up. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the author of The Little Prince, said, "Night, when words fade and things come alive, when the destructive analysis of the day is done, and all that is truly important becomes whole and sound again, when man reassembles his fragmentary self and grows with the calm of the trees." Beautiful. Well, from the Marginalian, how mankind conquered the night and created the 24-hour day. Why do we need darkness? The 20th century has at last triumphed over this frightening, lawless place. Night was once a time for thieves and highwaymen, gravediggers, ghosts, and masked balls. Now it's a place of bright lights illuminating every part of the city. According to one of the characters in Hemingway's story of the same name, quote, he disliked bars and bodegas. A clean, well-lighted cafe was a very different thing. While the City Dark, a new documentary by King Corn writer Ian Chaney, looks at the light-filled world we have created in the past 100 years or so. Humans of the 21st century have grown accustomed to living 24-hour lives and without the night sky above us. It's easy to forget our own place in the cosmos. Astronomer Thomas Hockey's recent book, How We See the Sky, is a revolutionary call for a return to stargazing. So I point you to the documentary, The City Dark, and Hockey's book, Hockey. Okay, Stuart Dybek, Night of Voyeurs. It's more than silhouettes tonight. Every window in the city lit, shades lifted, curtains open. And as one suspected, the dark buildings full of lovers, undressing beneath light bulbs, before mirrors. Men and women, men and men, women and women, embracing. Even the loners visible, flickered by single candles, touching places they've usually chosen to keep secret. So much nakedness. And the streets empty, except for the newsboys moving through shadows, leafless trees snatching underclothes out of wind, the L clattering above the roofs like a strip of blue movie. Night of Voyeurs. Thank you, Stuart Dybek. A new one to me. Of his. It's one of mine from Manhattan, Lenox Hill, East 66th Street, October 2018. New York by night light. The couple in 5C bathing in the blue lone hour light washing from the big bedroom screen. Her hand on the remote, her man rising to the call of nature. The empty study in 7B, the bodies of books lying listless on shelves in the readerless room under the pallor of the forgotten overhead, their torsos waiting, hoping to be touched. The rabbis in 3D clutching their scriptures, murmuring prayers in the moonlight in Hebrew, high above the holy and unholy sleeping city. New York by night light. Of course, there are all the out-and-about pleasures of things like dining out of an evening or going to a play or a concert, seeing a film or having a drink. Well, here's a moment of mine from New York back in March of 1998 at the Café Carlyle. Friday night at Bemelman's. Once upon a time, natty rabbits in flannels and serge are taking cocktails on the walls under awning-striped umbrellas. A sleek and dubious Italian flames up a cigar in the shadows of the bar, where martinis are stirring, while a courtly Mr. Minton caresses his piano and isn't it romantic here at Bemelman's? The Carlyle Hotel, Bemelman's Bar. I don't know if it's still there. It's quite a spot. Well, via the Marginalian, a typographic tour of New York City at night. I don't have this book, but I definitely would like to have a copy. So I'm going to look out for that. So this is about the book New York Nights. A striking, lavish, street-level tour of New York City's typographic neon mesmerism, revealed through the illuminated storefronts of some of the city's most revered bars, diners, speakeasies, theaters, and other epicenters of public life. The gorgeous giant tome, weighing in at over 6 pounds and more than a foot wide, is divided into 7 sections. Manhattan below 14th Street, 14th to 34th, 34th to 59th, above 59th, the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn, each highlighting the respective neighborhood's most iconic establishments. And in there, James and Carla Murray, the couple who did this book, said this: "No other city in the world stages dusk to dawn like New York City. Whether it's a glimpse out of a bus window pulling into the terminal at Port Authority, or the first step out onto the sidewalk under the Times Square lights after the end of a Broadway show that started before sunset, any visitor is immediately drawn to the city's lights. Even simply viewing the illuminated city from the George Washington Bridge on the drive into Manhattan can be undeniably exciting. It can be, I agree. I did it so many times when I lived there. Another book of note to tell you about. A mythopoeic masterpiece serenading the night sky through myths and stories from around the world. It's by artist Vija Kelmans and Elliot Weinberger. They bring to life enchantment in The Stars, an uncommonly poetic ode to the resplendence of the night sky. And here's how the story begins. The stars, what are they? They are chunks of ice reflecting the sun. They are lights afloat on the waters beyond the transparent dome. They are nails nailed to the sky. They are holes in the great curtain between us and the sea of light. They are holes in the hard shell that protects us from the inferno beyond it. They are the daughters of the sun. They are the messengers of the gods. They are shaped like wheels and are condensations of air with flames roaring through the spaces between the spokes. They sit in little chairs. They are strewn across the sky. They run errands for lovers. So, The Stars, recommending. Well, this is from the Aegean island of Kea in the Cyclades, Greece. This is about a star, or was inspired by the star that was featured on the ancient coinage there. This is called the dog star that barked. Instead of sending out rays of sound, when the dog star opened its bright, round eyes and barked into space, into the night sky, above this darkly ancient island, it sent out rays of clarifying light, outshining lines in all directions anyone awake could see from their fields or fishing boats. Anyone asleep could feel through the shutters of their dreams that elders of the oldest days captured on silver coins and honored in sacred ceremonies. The dog star that barked. Well, on the dramas we can experience in the night and are often heightened by the night. This is from the Yucatan coast, winter 1998, Tempestad, Tempest. Our Jules Verne flying ship slips its moorings in the night, and we awake to find ourselves sailing in a great and thunderous gale of wind that blows across our deck and whistles around our open windows. We fly out under known and unknown constellations, under the wagging dog star, under the swirl of Venus, under Orion's shiny belt, and out into the midst of the black ocean, where there's nary a soul, not even a lantern-fish, to light the way down below. We hold fast to the railing of our deck, and each other are held fast by the fancy of our flight. From the Tuscan hills, from Italy, from Impruneta, September 1998, nel mezzo di notte, in the middle of the night. Pattering autumn rain music, la musica della pioggia, falling through the dark chestnut tree that drapes itself out over the open window. A faint and undulating current of crickets, il rumore dei grilli. Low muffles of thunder unrolling over the distant vineyards, gli echi del tuono. In the middle of the night, nel mezzo di notte. What about the ethereal quality and experiences we can sometimes encounter, sometimes in otherworldliness? This is one of mine on East Pond Road above Lake Demarascata, Noblesboro, Maine, October 2018. What is this presence? Close around me in the night darkness, in the deep stillness, enfolding me like a lover with such tenderness, like a mother with such benevolence, Is it the presence of the land and water I lie above? Is it a soft, silent angel revealing its protecting wings? Or my own spirit, my anima, holding me so transcendently and showing me I'm really a body inside a breathing soul? Peggy Shoemaker has this darkly visceral, sea-sensual poem. I chose it because I wanted to also take us underwater as well by night, not just above the surface, not just in the air or on the land. Night dive. Plankton rise toward the full moon, spread thin on Wakaya's surface. Manta rays, great curls of jaw, scoop backward somersaults of ocean in through painted caves of their mouths, out through sliced gills. Red sea fans pulse. The leopard shark lounges on a smooth ramp of sand, skin-jeweled with small hangers-on. Pyramid fish point the way to the surface. 90 feet down, blue ribbon eels cough, their mouths neon cautions. Ghost pipefish curl in the dive master's palm. Soft corals unfurl rainbow polyps, thousands of mouths held open tonight. Currents communion. Giant clams slam shut wavy jaws, send shivers of water. Christmas tree worms snap back, flat spirals tight, living petroglyphs against the night. Thank you, Peggy Shoemaker. Night Dive. It's from her most recent book of poetry, Gnawed Bones. Well, that was 2010. She may have written others since then. Eamon Grennan, Night by the Harbor. Orion overhead and the coal-black water inching over the sand in perfect silence. A wind blowing into port from the land side, drilling legs and head and hands and coasting over the faintly luminescent anchor buoys that barely bob on the rising tide. Orion and the other stars far off and imperturbable, the black depths of ocean edging under my feet, I imagine, shivering, the cold, intolerable absolute that water holds, the knowing that would come over you, dipped in it and held there or swept out in it, the current taking you the way some decisions do, irrevocable and at top speed, sweeping the solid land away. Thank you, Eamon Grennan. This was watching the sun set over Rockport Harbor, Rockport, Maine, October 2017. It's time for Violet. Time to wash Violet into the harbor waters, where the seals are silking below the cold, fading surface and all the unsailed boats are pointing south at their moorings. Time to dial down the deep October sky. Take it from peacock to pastel blue. Dial up star points of pale green and yellow white above the piers. Bring on the quick-winking lighthouse beacon. Slowly flow Davies gray and vine black onto the dusk descending canvas. Call it a mid-coast night. And one more from Maine for the moment, 2021 in Owl's Head, Maine. And what better place to drink in the night than a place of owls? So I dedicated this to Alan and Angela Shoemake, my friends who live there now. And when I wrote this, I was visiting with them. Pines and stars. Days and nights of pines and stars, of blue bays, white schooners, top-down vintage motor cars, mornings of outdoor showers, lupins, pure down-east air, evenings of first fireflies, loons, clear, falling light, and everywhere oceans of native pines, everywhere oceans of votive stars. September 1998, Sullivan, Maine. Late night on Frenchman's Bay. 3 rings of moon pool out past the lichened pine. 2 loons call each other from their loneliness. A stage set of clouds, their backs to the footlights, echo the silhouettes of wooded points and porcupine islands. Dark water, clouds, and trees holding the deep night stillness. And here's a fleeting recording I made in Seal Harbor, Maine, of a loon. You know, it's so beautiful, their sound, their loon music, and I always like to give you things that if it's a poem, that's certainly that I've written as well as the other ones I share, but when I do give you some sounds, it's usually something I've recorded somewhere along the line. Well, speaking of birds, Walt Whitman wrote something about this, birds migrating at midnight. Did you ever chance to hear the midnight flight of birds passing through the air and darkness overhead in countless armies, changing their early or late summer habitat? It is something not to be forgotten. A friend called me up just after 12 last night to mark the peculiar noise of unusually immense flocks migrating north rather late this year. In the silence, shadow, and delicious odor of the hour, the natural perfume belonging to the night alone, I thought it rare music. You could hear the characteristic motion, once or twice, quote, the rush of mighty wings, but oftener a velvety rustle, long drawn out, sometimes quite near, with continual calls and chirps and some song notes. It all lasted from 12 till after 3. Once in a while the species was plainly distinguishable. I could make out the bobolink, tanager, Wilson's thrush, white-crowned sparrow, and occasionally from high in the air came the notes of the plover. Lovely. That was new to me. Maybe you've heard of that before. Birds migrating at midnight. Well, here was an experience I had in Berlin, Germany, in March of 2015. Blackbird Amsel. Invisible in the deep night air after the sun falls and before it rises, but for its reedy melody, its pointed calls from dark branches, like the one nearby our rooftop window, calling me to slip down from bed before dawn, to stand in stillness, nakedness, to lean my ears into its free, its so innocent song. Blackbird. From the coast of Mexico, from the Mayan coast, February 2001, Serenade in the Night. A slender pair of star-sheathed palms moved to the rhythms of Mexican guitars, caressed by mocha-faced men trioed by the thatch roof bar. Their music and voices flow over us, flow over the shore. All their dulce de leche sounds swallowed eventually in the deep ear of the dark sea. Serenade in the Night. From my exhibition of theater on paper behind the curtain, the spring 2018 debut in New York, the romantic is a man of dreams and dreaminess, of love's music in the night that can be heard, can be made, of the oldest magic word written, sometimes hidden in the shadows, that he can read. And now that he's met you, don't ever doubt, dear, he won't forget you. Not your profile, or the way you kissed on a night like this. Well, there are many great films with night in the title. Far too many for me to tell you about, but there are 3 of mine, 3 great favorites of mine that I wanted to say something about. These are all reviews from RogerEbert.com. Night on Earth. Maybe you've seen that. Jim Jarmusch's Night on Earth assembles 5 moments in time, in taxicabs, in the middle of the night, in 5 of the world's cities. At the end, we have learned no great lessons and arrived at no thrilling conclusions, but we have shared the community of the night when people are unbuttoned and vulnerable, more ready to speak about what's really on their minds. Jarmusch is a poet of the night. Much of Night on Earth creates the same kind of lonely, elegiac, romantic mood as Mystery Train, his film about wanderers in nighttime Memphis. Tom Waits' music helps to establish this mood of cities that have been emptied of the waking. It's as if the minds of these night people are affected by all of the dreams and nightmares that surround them. So if you haven't seen that, marvelous. Then there's Big Night. Big Night is one of the great food movies, and yet it is so much more. It is about food, not as a subject, but as a language, the language by which one can speak to gods, can create, can seduce, can aspire to perfection. There is a moment in the movie when a timpano is sliced open, timpano, actually, and the audience sighs with simple delight. The movie exists in the real world, where you can go broke selling great food. It tells the story of 2 brothers, recent immigrants to America, who run a restaurant named Paradise. I won't tell you more because it's a wonderful, wonderful film. But they finish by saying, the review, the movie works smoothly and deeply to achieve its effects, which have to do with more than this night or this feast. The surprises in the plot involve not only secret romance, but heartbreak and long-held frustration. For if genius is great, it is nevertheless not easy to be genius's brother. By the end of the movie, we have been through an emotional and a sensual wringer in a film of great wisdom and delight. I agree. I've seen this dozens of times. It always captures my fancy. And here's one more for you. It's from 1938. It's a comedy and a love story with Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. It Happened One Night. For all its humor, sexiness, and wisdom, It Happened One Night is also damn beautiful to look at. The director Capra's propensity for long takes is evident throughout, with some immobile set pieces serving as exemplary instances of comic timing. 80 years after being made, it remains a mirror and a measuring stick, not only for all subsequent romantic comedies, but also, perhaps more significantly, for all lovers who came after the main characters Peter and Ellie and dream of a similar union of bodies, wits, and fates. Well, see that if you have not seen that. And what adventures, real or imagined, have you had during the night? I had this cinematic one on the South Fork of Long Island in May of 2001. I can't believe it's 22 years back. The sea green roadster that roared, and I dedicated to Allison Lasley, the hostess that evening. I run an eager hand along a sinuous thigh where she lies, waiting, silky and sexy. Soon we slide together like fingers in a glove onto the low-slung seats and rouse the engine to a tiger's roar, then ease her out into the crisp night air, crunching the courtyard gravel. You shift into first and take us away, around and down the owl-dark drive, gliding under glassy stars and below the outstretched arms of towering trees, carry and grace to catch a thief, racing along your seaside corniche, feeling electric and alive, loving the sudden, secret romance of it all. Indelible moments like that. This is a story poem from another character, another cast member from the Behind the Curtain exhibition that I did and traveled with, The Night Visitor. Because I'm also wanting us to touch on some other things, romantic and amorous and intimate, that occur at night. Maybe for you tonight. The Night Visitor. Candelabra and body glow into the bedchamber. Answer the invitation to visit this night beneath the also burning stars, to meet another body of desire, to make a greater light and heat, to enter each other's mystery. As I thought of poems of this sort, I thought of a poem I had written about a great love who was on the other side of the world from where I was in August of 2012 in the fishing village of Wurkari in the Cyclades on Kea. While you sleep. I walk while you sleep, swim while you dream. Turn my face to the sun while you turn yours to the moon. Drink dark wine as you drink dark night air. Listen to deep blue water lapping, listening to your heart beating while you sleep. How about this inventive poem, this kind of playing with perspective, with night vision? This is George Bilger, or Bilgier, Bilgere. Night flight. I'm doing laps at night, alone in the indoor pool. Outside it is snowing, but I am warm and weightless, suspended and out of time like a fly in amber. She is thousands of miles from here and miles above me, ghosting the stratosphere, heading from New York to London. Though it is late, even at that height, I know her light is on, her window a square of gold as she reads mysteries above the Atlantic. I watch the line of black tile on the pool's floor, leading me down the lane. If she looks down by moonlight, under a clear sky, she will see black water. She will see me, swimming distantly, moving far from shore, suspended with her in flight through the wide gulf as we swim toward land together. Lovely. Thank you, George Bilger or Bilger. Well, the night can move us, can't it, to certain feeling states, certain reflective states, and also to epiphanies and to states of gratitude for our lives and days as we contemplate them in the quiet, in the dark, in the night. And I'm all for letting it move us freely, always. It did here, one late Indian summer eve in Maine, on the coast in Rockland Harbor. I blessed this body, while the town sleeps and dreams behind me, and Pine Islands lay silently, invisibly off the salt-tongued shore. I rise, bare-bodied, from my warm bed out into the cool, falling rain, to bless this being of flesh and bone, heart and soul, to feel the wildness of nature. Let the blissful, sensual world touch my willing skin, bathe my upraised face, fill my upturned palms. Let the elements of this pure living place anoint me on this pouring autumn night. Well, I was hoping I could include this poem, inspired by a delightful story my friend Deirdre told me and others about her childhood, apropos of nights in our childhood, in our youth. This is called I'll Never Forget the Night I Kissed Jesus, by Deirdre O'Connor on her holy moly childhood memory. I love this story, and I love the poem. I hope you do too. It's fun. I'll never forget the night I kissed Jesus. You confessed, when we talked over dinner of things we remembered growing up that glowed in the dark. About your test pilot father bringing home luminous toys and other novelties long before they came to neighbors' houses. Him warning you, his little daughter, to never, ever get that substance close to your mouth. It's not safe. And the small triptych you had there on your nightstand with a literally radiant Jesus, his beatific face shining in the center of the dark. And one night, swept away in an innocent fervor, religious and rapturous, you brought it to your lips, kissing Jesus right on his, that Son of God, that lucky son of a gun. Then, suddenly recalling in a panic what your dad had said, leapt out of bed and rushed to the living room to tell your dad and Mom about the forbidden kiss. And they, a few cocktails in, said get back to sleep, but with no fatherly word about you saying a body or soul-saving prayer, and then or since, ever hearing a peep from above about that heavenly smooch. I have to tell Deirdre I shared that with all of you tonight. In the marvelous book, Night on the Great Beach, nature writer Henry Beston, back in time, back in the 30s, late 30s, early 40s. He wrote this: "Our fantastic civilization has fallen out of touch with many aspects of nature, and with none more completely than night. Primitive folk, gathered at a cave mouth round a fire, do not fear night. They fear rather the energies and creatures to whom night gives power. We of the age of the machines, having delivered ourselves of nocturnal enemies, now have a dislike of night itself. With lights and more lights, we drive the holiness and beauty of night back to the forests and the sea. The little villages, the crossroads even, will have none of it. Are modern folk perhaps afraid of the night? Do they fear that vast serenity, the mystery of infinite space, the austerity of the stars? Having made themselves at home in a civilization obsessed with power, which explains its whole world in terms of energy, do they fear at night for their dull acquiescence and the pattern of their beliefs? Be the answer what it will, today's civilization is full of people who have not the slightest notion of the character or the poetry of night, who have never even seen night. Yet to live thus, to know only artificial night, is as absurd and evil as to know only artificial day." Thank you, Henry Beston. Let's have a walk with Charles Simic. Evening walk. You give the appearance of listening to my thoughts, O trees. Bent over the road, I am walking on a late summer evening when every one of you is a steep staircase, the night is descending. The leaves like my mother's lips, forever trembling, unable to decide. For there's a bit of wind, and it's like hearing voices, or a mouth full of muffled laughter. A huge dark mouth we can all fit in, suddenly covered by a hand. Everything quiet. Light of some other evening strolling ahead. Long ago evening of long dresses, pointy shoes, silver cigarette cases. Happy heart, what heavy steps you take as you hurry after them in the thickening shadows. The sky above still blue, the night birds like children who won't come to dinner. Lost children singing to themselves. Thank you, Charles Simic. And Donald Jenkins, Night at the Ocean, a walk, dedicated to his mother. Ahead on the beach there were bonfires, and it was dark, but over the coast range moonlight broke from the clouds. A distorted landscape, preternatural hills. Huge gullies headlong to the ocean. We walked out on the sand. The surf was bright. We stood for a while barefoot in the waves, the pale foam breaking over our feet. The breakers were close in and steady. Mother, I had come back, bearded, almost a stranger. Still, for your son, you were the unknown, lovely woman on the beach at dark. How like you the crescendos and strange diminutions of light. The goddess moon, changeful and always only half known. Your son, mother, is surely a stranger. We passed the fires, then, turning back, it was revelation to know your steps beside me. The beach was flooded now with light. Immense the landscape of the coast range. The ocean was incredibly large. That night was yours. Thank you, David Jenkins. We spoke of cities at night earlier, and I also thought of the old world ones, the old world cities, and moments like this in Europe. Maybe you've had your share of them. This is from Salzburg, autumn 1992, Austria, evening in Salzburg. The clouds caress the moon tonight. A fountain spills in the square. Fire stars spark whispers, and leaves rush with wind into the night sky. Remember it well. Joseph Stroud, Night in Day. The night never wants to end, to give itself over to light, so it traps itself in things. Obsidian, crows. Even on summer solstice, the day of light's great triumph, where fields of sunflowers guzzle in the sun, we break open the watermelon and spit out black seeds, bits of night glistening on the grass. Wonderful. Thank you, Joseph Stroud. All right, and now, friends, into our last handful of musings and sharings for this week. This is from Williamsburg, Brooklyn, December 2019. This was related to an experience that I created and curated called The Night of the White Elephant, and this was featured in that event. The white elephant. Like the snow, like a cloud, or the moon, the song of a bird, the laughter of a child, the rare and sacred gifts that come our way in this world, from nature, from life beyond culture, from the oceans of our imaginations, that need not be useful at all to be valuable, whose beauty, transcendent beauty, intangibility, and freedom from practicality make them all worth our appreciating on any sunlit day, on any starlit night. I recalled, as I was preparing the broadcast, of blackouts and those experiences and what we make of them, how we handle them. And this was a big one in New York City back in August of 2003 when I was living there. Maybe you were in it too, in the city. Maybe we were there together in a way. The night the city went dark. Red lights flaring like Roman candles at empty intersections. Headlights wanding like blind men's sticks from slow-moving cars, feeling their way along hushed boulevards. Flashlights swinging from invisible arms like country train conductors. Moonlight round and luminous, and there to the right, red Mars, a bright floating ember. Candlelights in windows flickering in the eyes of passers-by, revelers and garden dwellers. Silhouettes on stoops, some silent, some speaking. Everyone idling, everything easing in the great suspended dark of the city, in this now soft and shape-filled shadow world. Louise Bogan, Night. The cold remote islands and the blue estuaries where what breathes the restless wind of the inlets, and what drinks the incoming tide. Where shell and weed wait upon the salt wash of the sea, and the clear nights of stars swing their lights westward to set behind the land. Where the pulse clinging to the rocks renews itself forever, where again on unclouded nights the water reflects the firmament's partial setting. Oh, remember in your narrowing dark hours that more things move than blood in the heart. Thank you, Louise Bogan. Philippe Delavaux, Night Blessings. The milk, the wine, the honey that night pours out, the amphora of silence, the vessel of the sky, just enough of shadow, of cicadas, crickets sharpening against the leather of the earth their tears, and recurrent moments of tranquil breathing. The moon shines over the impassive sea out beyond the path of palm trees and vines, and meditation sets in relief a luminous form. Shuddering agitation in the leaves of the mimosa. Listen like a sigh, more than a sigh, and more than time, and more than the night. Who is moving among the deserted pines? Merci, Philippe Delavaux. From her book, West with the Night, aviatrix Beryl Markham, back in time. She said, night flying over the charted country by the aid of instruments and radio guidance can still be a lonely business, but to fly in unbroken darkness without even the cold companionship of a pair of earphones, with the knowledge that somewhere ahead are lights and life and a well-marked airport, is something more than just lonely. It is at times unreal, to the point where the existence of other people seems not even a reasonable probability. The hills, the forests, the rocks, and the plains are one with the darkness, and the darkness is infinite. The earth is no more your planet than is a distant star. If a star is shining, the plain is your planet, and you are its sole inhabitant. Beryl Markham, West with the Night. Rain during our nights. So many experiences, of light to heavy rains, rain in different seasons, spring to summer, winter, all different. This was at the Watch Hill Inn, Watch Hill, Rhode Island here, where I live, December 2020. Late night rain. The rain spatters into metal gutters, flows in cold runnels overhead, funnels in long gurgles down white channels toward gravelled ground, forms a felt scaffold of water and unfolding water music around the 2 stories of inn I'm in, that sits on high stilts above the wet earth, above the dark harbor, the dunes, and for now invisible sea. From the Yucatan, the Mayan coast, February 2000, crossing the line between day and night. As the day leaves and night begins to set, a clothesline goes up overhead. To the west hangs a gown of peach, to the east a suit of lilac. The gown drapes the low-shouldered sun in a sheer and sensuous way. The lilac suit is all lapels, boutonniered with a branch of white hydrangea and stick-pinned with a silver moon, while its purple cuffs break just so over the sea. Next to last, from the South Fork of Long Island, June 2002, where I used to have a beautiful, magical summer cottage. Crossing the red brick terrace to bed. The incense of honeysuckle and half-moon, the night-dark stars of ivy, the upholstered shapes of hedges and cedars, the cool midnight stillness, the nearness of the sea of the summer. And last for now, my friends, till we're together again over the airwaves, whether lit by the moon or stars or the sun. This is from La Habra, California, February 2017. Before there's light, there's only shadow, intangible forms, shapes and silhouettes, lines and outlines, only traces, intimations, suspensions of things. An intriguing there but not all there-ness. Until the light of day fills in the picture, fills out the substance, dispels the night shade, the noir, the elusive and illusory, pauses the shadow plays for another day. Thank you again for leaning in, thinking and feeling in, and taking in this nighttime together. Also appreciation for your sharing this and other shows round freely. Send a program link or playlist out to a friend or post out to your social media. And always glad that you recommend these broadcasts to others in your circles in any way you do. Feel free to send me your reflections from listening or any questions you may have. And maybe consider making a donation to help support these weekly broadcasts I create to enrich your thoughts and feelings, your senses and imaginations. If there's any theme you'd like me to make a future broadcast about, send an email, colin@thepoetorialist.com. And what about your experience of this show on night time? What intrigued or stirred you? Send me a note. And if you are sending a contribution, thank you very much. All helpful. You can donate by Venmo to Fivefold, Fivefold, at pipeline.com, or by PayPal to that same email, or you can mail a check along to me to P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island, 02891, or donate through my site, thepoetorialist.com, by way of the Donate tab. I can be privately hosted or sponsored as a working poet in residence in the U.S. or elsewhere to create a new flight of poetic art and dedicate it to a patron or sponsor, and if that's you, email me to explore. Meanwhile, you can hear all the broadcasts online, on YouTube, on the floating poetry playlist. And you can follow the Poetisphere, the oasis of regenesis that I'm leading, that's launching in just a few more weeks from now. Go to thepoetisphere.com for a taste. Meanwhile, I hope you'll lean in soon again. Until then, dear listeners, sense more fully into and savor the night, all it richly holds of all kinds to experience and appreciate, all it conjures up in your mind, body, spirit, all that's awake in it, all that's asleep around you, dusk to dawn. Good night for now. Buenas noches, amigos. Bonne nuit, mes amis. Buonanotte, amici. In good spirits.